All right, good morning, mamas. I know we're all coming in. I know how we roll. We're coming in. But fall break is not for another couple weeks. So y'all come on in. We are live and in person. I'm going to try to get through quick the announcements because I know on our live stream it's kind of a pain when you're watching the live stream to see all the announcements. So I'm going to try to hurry up and get through some announcements really quick. Welcome to Moms with Swords. Guys, remember, we are here next week, but we are not here for the next 2 weeks after next week. So make sure you're here next week. I'll probably say it again. We have a panel next week. I've got 3 men. Moms with Swords loves men. So I have got 3 men coming on a panel. So if you guys, any Westridge people, you are going to be very familiar with Brent Moxie is going to be here. Brent is going to represent the elementary. And then we have Troy Gambrell, who is the youth pastor for Sanctuary here. He's going to be here, along with Stephen Kyle, who is the Christian Life Director at Mount Perrin Christian School. So we are going to be having a panel up here, and we are going to be talking about chasing culture. How culture is chasing our kids from a youth pastor's perspective and a Christian schools, Christian life pastor's perspective. How culture is chasing them and how we as mothers and families can chase back with the word and with Jesus. So you do not want to miss next week. I swear every week it just builds upon itself. Every week we just get more information and more information, and our heads might all explode, but no, it's okay because we're going to just be awakened to all this information the Lord has given us. So, okay, our t-shirts, y'all, okay, as per the world we live in, supply chains are down. So we were hoping you would get your shirts next week before we go into our fall breaks, but because of COVID and all the supply, we will get them, but it possibly is going to be after you get back from our 2 weeks off from Cobb and Paulding break, okay? So we love our Moms with Swords shirts. They are so soft. I mean, Cindy's got the Zeal. I've got our Bestow one on. They're just amazing. So they're worth the wait. And look, when you get them, especially if you got the long sleeve, it'll probably be chillier, so you'll be able to actually wear your Moms with Swords shirt. So that should be coming. Hopefully, if the Lord can speed up, we can get it next week, but probably not. So we'll just go ahead and prepare you for after fall break, okay? Hey, is everybody's getting their Moms with Swords emails? Are you getting your emails from us? Are you opening your emails? Joanne is doing a fantastic job getting the emails out. She is sending you nuggets from whatever the Thursday before. She's sending you links. She's sending you just information. So if you gave us your email, I know you don't always need another email, but check your Moms with Swords email because there's important information on there, okay? Make sure you check our social media. Really important stuff on there. And then finally, y'all know our Young Lives partnership with Katia Bowers, who is over their teen moms. We really want to help them. So there are ways we can help them that we're not bringing diapers and wipes. We can actually help them by signing up to bring lunches to their lunch and learns. So again, on our social media, on your email, you will have links. If you have an open time, I think it's on Wednesdays at Marietta High School, Katia brings her, I think there's 11 teen mamas this year. They get together at Marietta High School for a lunch and learn. They usually bring in a little speaker. Jackie, you need to go over there if you haven't gone over there. We need to get you over there. And somebody brings in lunch. So that is a very tangible way. If you've got some time, all the links are on our social media. We are talking to Katia about Christmas and partnering with them as we have always done at Christmas to bring to partner with these 11 moms and their children and bring them gifts like we have always done. Make this stage a Christmas tree with lots of presents under it. So stay tuned for that, Katia and Young Lives. And finally, small groups. Listen, have y'all been reading this book? I don't want to put pressure on you because I know you don't need one more thing. But again, Put the People magazine down, put the Instagram down while you're waiting in preschool line. Yeah, I'm talking to some of y'all mamas. I know, been there, done that while you're waiting in carpool, and pick this up because it is so important. I hope you are digging in. Again, you got plenty of time. There's no pressure, but your small group leaders are reading it in your small groups. It goes hand in hand with what's going on here on Thursday mornings. So I want to encourage you, as I always do, please go to your small groups. Life is that's community. It happens. Oh, there's our young lives. Yay, thank you, Lord. Life happens in our small groups, so I really want to encourage you to go if you can. All right, this morning, y'all, I'm so excited about who we have this morning. Jackie is coming. Let me tell you a little bit about Jackie, and then I'm going to pray, and we're going to go right in. Jackie, that's so cool. I think I did tell you this. If you have a kid in public school, more than likely Jackie has come and spoken to your kids at their school. She actually spoke to both of my girls, and we just found out that she's going back to McClure Middle School in May, Marcy, to do the talk. Jackie, is that kind of what the sex education talk? In May, so my boy's going to get her too. So if you have a kid in public school, mostly you probably have had Jackie. So I am so excited. Tiffany Abernathy has been telling me, Joy, you got to get her. And so many of you have said, we need somebody to come and help us know how to talk to our kids about sex. Because, y'all, if we don't talk to them, the world is going to talk to them. The world is talking. So we have got to be the louder voice. We've got to bring truth. So Jackie Bruton is here. She is a youth speaker, an author, and teen relationship expert. She graduated from Furman, and in 2001, she walked away from a career in corporate America to establish Motivation in 3D Incorporated, a motivational speaking company. She can be found speaking to classrooms of 30 in Cobb and Paulding counties, or delivering keynotes before assemblies of thousands. Over the past 20 years, Jackie has received more than 17,000 letters, y'all. I know she's going to share a lot about this, from high school students. These letters, along with her Real Talk classroom discussions, have given her a window into the hearts and minds of teen girls and guys that few of us, moms and dads, probably ever experience. So Jackie is, and I know she's going to share. Y'all, she has, listen, this is for every one of you mamas, especially with little ones, the sex talk every parent needs to have. If you have not had it yet, this would be a great video for you to get. It's right out there. If you have boys, the sex talk every teen guy needs. Right here, boys. And girls, the sex talk every teen girl needs to hear. Jackie, would you say these are pretty much only towards teens? Like we couldn't get this at preteen? Okay, preteen, teen. And then here is her book, 7 Secrets Guys Will Never Tell You. If you have teen girls, this is a teen girl's guide on love, sex, and relationships. Y'all, we've got to arm our kids in this department of sex. So I am so excited to have Jackie come. So that's who Jackie is. Before she does, would you stand? I just want us to pray into this time. Again, going to be information overload. Get your pens, get your papers. You're going to want to take a lot of notes. Remember, without knowledge, the people perish. Like, we've got to know, y'all. We've got to know. And I hope you are seeing how God is using every Thursday to awaken us to something new. I got on social media after last week, and I saw like there was a whole stream of 5th grade mamas that were on it of what their kids were reading over in one of our county schools. So kudos to you mamas. I went and checked out some of my boys' 8th grade material. I've already sent an email to his teacher wanting to know, what are you reading? I checked it out with my Christian school English teachers that I love and respect, and they're like, no, that's a good book. It's fine. So, y'all, I'm so excited. That's what this session is about, right? Us awakening and asking Jesus, God, how do I get involved in this fight, right? So today is going to be no different. So, but I really just want to pray for us today. You know, the Lord was reminding me today, of the power of our minds and just how we have got to make sure our minds are just saturated in truth, because our minds are going so many different directions, right? God wants us to have the mind of Christ. And we think about that in 2 Timothy 1:7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love. And listen, y'all know I'm all for that. Yeah, power and love. But the last is a sound mind. Y'all, the Bible says he will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is stayed on you. Not, oh gosh, what symptoms do you have? Oh my gosh, do you have COVID? Oh my gosh, have you been exposed? Is that where we are today? Yes, that's where we are today, y'all. We have got to have the mind of Christ. Not that we don't focus we don't focus on those. Not that we're not tending to those things, right? Those are good things, but we cannot keep our mind there. He will keep in perfect peace him whose mind is stayed on COVID. Absolutely not. Him whose mind is stayed on the state of our world. Absolutely not. Him whose mind is stayed on me. So I just want to pray over all of us today that God would give us. He says he's not given us a spirit of fear. And fear comes from a lack of a sound mind. So I just felt really compelled this morning when I was waking up and praying that the Lord would give us a sound mind as we go into this time today. So would you just let me pray over your mind and my mind as Jackie is getting ready to bring us the fire. Jesus, God, we thank you. Lord, I thank you for awakening me this morning. I always start with me, God. Before I ever say anything to anybody, God, start with me. So thank you, God, for checking my mind, keeping my mind stayed on you, God, not stayed on circumstances or the news or what's swirling around. God, staying on you. Jesus, I pray over every one of us mamas and our minds today. God, you tell us you've not given us a spirit of fear. You've not given us that spirit of fear. But you've given us the spirit of power, the spirit of love, and the spirit of a sound mind. So Jesus, this morning, I pray for sound minds. Would you calm our thoughts? Would you refocus our gaze? Would you set our gaze back upon you, the rightful place that our mind needs to focus on? God, once our mind is set on you, we can be in peace in chaos. Once our mind is set on you, God, we can walk in peace in all the circumstances, in all the diagnosis, in all the news, in all the current events, as long as our mind is not stayed on those things, but it's stayed on you. So this morning, God, redirect us. If our mind has been focused on other things, this morning, in the name of Jesus, by the authority of Christ and through the blood of Jesus, I pray a redirection of our mind. May we be saturated in peace, because our focus is not on anything other than Jesus. So right now, we confess and we redirect. And we thank you for Thursday. We thank you for this moment in time in our day. May you be glorified, and may we be awakened to whatever spirit needs us to be awakened to, and may we take action however spirit wants us to take action. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. All right. Here we go. Let's welcome Jackie Bruton to the stage.
Well, hello. I have been looking for a group like y'all for a long time. I've been looking to find parents that I could help them understand what's going on with our kids as it relates to sex. So before I get started, can you put it back up so I'm going to show you a video that, I could probably show this video and go home, because I think this video will awaken you for sure. So this is a video, North Point Church, Andy Stanley did a series about 5 or 6 years ago called Twisted. And it was, some of you may have seen it, and it was called Changing the Truth One Twist at a Time. And so let me just set up, because it's kind of confusing when you first start watching the video if you don't know what it is, but it's basically, imagine that you are in the control room of the satanic forces, and they're having a conversation. And so when they refer to the competition in the video, they're speaking about God. So you'll figure it out. So watch this video, and then I'll come back up and say more. Oh, I got to start it. Well, slide the mic. Okay.
I'm Agent Bender. You don't know me, but I know you. I work for the largest organization in the world. You've never seen us, or probably ever heard of us, but we have a presence in every household, including yours. Don't believe me? Then we're doing our job.
Has anyone seen Bender?
Not in a while.
Me either. Then again, why look for problems?
Looking for me?
You have got to stop doing that.
You're the one who showed me how.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a few more things if you don't cut it out. Now use the door like the rest of us.
Yeah, that's another thing. The doors. I mean, why do we even have doors? Obviously, we don't need them.
There's a lot of things around here we don't need.
It helps us to act and therefore think like humans. You'll find that helpful when you're creating a twist.
Yeah, what's on the menu for today? I'm ready for a little excitement.
Well, then today's your lucky day. Today we're going to look at a twist that most people not only find exciting, but pretty much irresistible.
Sexual activity. Okay, what about it? What's the plan? Where's the twist?
There's more, right?
Not really. You see, Bender, if we can get people to think of sex only as an activity, then the battle's mostly won.
I don't get it.
And a hush falls over the crowd.
Sexual activity is an isolated event, an animalistic action only to be thought of in the context of the moment.
I get that. It's just... I thought sex was an isolated animalistic action only to be thought of within the context of the moment.
Well, good. That means our methods are working. But I'm surprised they worked on you.
Why?
Well, our tactics are designed to appeal to the baser desires of human beings, so it's surprising that they would work on you, an asexual being.
I'm an asexual being?
Well, of course, what'd you think?
I thought I was just incredibly bad with women.
You are hopeless.
Well, I am now.
Bender, sex is a unique experience that the competition created just for them.
I've watched Animal Planet, and I can tell you it's not just for them.
Amazing.
What's amazing? Who's amazing?
You bought into the entire twist. The Animal Planet, Birds and the Bees is natural, everyone does it. Don't you see? These messages are designed to transfer the focus from intimacy to activity.
The competition designed sex as the ultimate expression of intimacy between two married people. We, on the other hand, have twisted that to become an act to be pursued whenever, wherever, and with whoever possible. Show 'em, Snow.
Hey, hold on. Rather just be friends if it's all the same.
You moron. Just watch the screens. Okay, back in the 60s, we tried the free love movement, but that had limited success, mostly on the West Coast. We discovered that people actually wanted to have rules when it came to sex. Made them feel like they were higher than the animals.
So what did you do?
We just twisted the rules a little.
Such as?
Okay, there are a lot of them. Like, sex is okay between consenting adults. The most important thing is to practice safe sex.
And a popular one lately is the idea of casual sex. You know, friends with benefits.
That's friends with benefits? I thought it meant they had a dental plan.
It's all part of the twist. You see, the key is to get them to take baby steps. We offer them small doses of sexual temptation. They don't even realize that their viewpoint is changing. Snow?
We use various media, TV, movies, magazines.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the magazines before, like Red Book. Thought you were talking about magazines like...
Baby steps, remember? There's an article in here about how to please your man. It doesn't matter if he's your husband or not.
Plus, our studies show that people leave these lying around so we can get to their kids that way. And catalogs are great for that as well, like this one. Every 13-year-old American boy is dying to know Victoria's Secret. And this is our most effective magazine.
TV Guide?
It's our card catalog of carnality. It tells you who's sleeping with whom, on what channel, at what time, some in high def.
Bet we get a lot done with television.
We used to in the old days, but now today, this is king. Cyberspace. The internet has exceeded our wildest dreams. Google sex. Searching under sex, it says about 513 million results. About that many. We can't keep count, there's so many out there.
But shouldn't we be pushing people outside, away from their computers?
Why?
Well, being an asexual being, I have a lot to learn, but it seems easier to me to get people involved in sex if they're around other people.
You're still missing the point, Bender.
Don't say it.
We're destroying their capacity for intimacy.
But what's the point? They're still having sex, and as far as I've seen, it seems like they're still enjoying it.
You're still thinking in terms of the moment. You have to take the long view. We've twisted the ultimate expression of intimacy and used it in many people's lives to destroy their potential for intimacy.
Look at their lives. Look at their ability to sustain relationships. See how much of themselves they're willing to share with others.
More importantly, look at their relationship with the competition.
Oh, I get it. Bet he drops them like a bad blind date if they fool around.
Interestingly, no, he doesn't. He's there for them, but they just don't know it. Remember, if they can't experience true intimacy with someone they can see and touch, then it makes it more difficult with the competition.
Who they can't see or touch.
Exactly. Now, let's get to work.
Did that awaken you? I saw that and I was like, and this was 5 or 6 years ago that this series was done. So you can imagine it's gotten even worse now. But what they explained about sex destroying the intimacy with the people that they can see, then it makes it harder for them to have intimacy with the person they can't see. And so you think about I just think sex is the number one thing that Satan uses. And you think about the whole orphan spirit and what causes the orphan spirit. A lot of people, because how sex was done, like if there was one thing that we could change in our culture that would change what this entire landscape looks like, it would be how we do sex. Because think about a lot of the social ills that we have in our society. What are they based on? How we do sex. So if you have people who are growing up and the fathers aren't involved because of how we did sex, then if they don't see their natural father in a positive way, it makes it much more difficult for them to see their heavenly father. And it is so strategic. So that just, to me, is just a wake-up call, and I loved it. So let me tell you, this is where you'll find me most days, in a classroom. And you mentioned that somebody's son would hear me in the 8th grade next year. In middle school, we separate by gender, so the boys won't hear me. But they'll hear somebody who is a great speaker. So in middle schools, we go into 8th grade classes and separate by gender. So I talk to the girls, another guy talks to the guys. And so you'll hear a lot of my stories today will be about girls because I speak to more girls than guys. High schools are co-ed classes. But I also go around the country and do assemblies across the country. As she mentioned, I spend a lot of my time reading letters. I've received over 17,000 letters over the last 20 years. And I read every single letter. I go to some of my favorite spots, Chick-fil-A. Out by the river, I go, and I'll tell you that I have spoken in public schools, but also private schools and also Christian schools. And some of my biggest challenges have come from the kids in Christian schools because they want to know I want to do everything but, and how far can I go without going all the way? I'll never forget being at a private school, and we did a parent workshop 2 weeks before we went into the 8th grade classes. And so at the end of the parent workshop, and we talked about everything that's going on in the schools and the decisions kids are making, a mom raised her hand and said, "Do you think I need to worry about my son, our kids with this?" She said, "I'm not worried about my son's friends who go to school here. It's the kids in the neighborhood I'm concerned about, his friends, because they go to public school." I didn't know how to answer that because I was like, I know people thought like that. I just didn't know anybody would let those words come out of their mouth in public. And so fortunately, the counselor who had invited us to the school said, "May I answer that question?" I'm like, "Have at it." And She said, I graduated from one of the most prestigious private schools in Atlanta, and I will tell you that you have to worry about that and so much more, because these kids have the means to get into the drugs and the alcohol and all the other stuff. So 2 weeks later, we went to talk to the 8th graders. So on the second day, the counselor said, because we're there for 3 days in middle school and 2 days in high school, because they're 90-minute classes in high school, so it's a 3-hour curriculum. And so the counselor said, the girls said they don't feel comfortable asking you questions because I'm in the room and they're afraid that I'll go back and tell their parents what they ask. And she said, is there any way that they can just write their questions down? And I said, sure. So we gave them index cards, and I said, write them down and I'll answer them tomorrow. I got home, and the first 3 questions I read from 8th grade girls, and this was 10 years ago, y'all, in private school, were about anal sex. Can you get pregnant? Can you still be a virgin? And I thought, wow, why could thou have not done the girls first so that I could have told that mom that? Let me tell you what the 8th grade girls hear. And today you're going to hear things that might shock you, anger you, and I think the biggest thing I wanted to do is awaken you. And so I love, 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 love the theme that you have. And I want to read a letter that I got last week. This is from a 17-year-old girl who actually wrote me a letter. I didn't even know kids knew how to write letters and mail letters and get a stamp and an envelope. And this is from across the country. I don't even know how this girl found out about me. So she writes me this letter, and this is just an example of what Christian kids are struggling with. She says, Dear Jackie, I'm 17 years old, and my name is blank. I am on my 2nd round of reading your book, 7 Secrets Guys Will Never Tell You. I love this book, and it is so relatable. I'm currently dating a boy who is 15 and a half. He's very mature for his age, and he is a Christian. Right now, we are very committed to each other and are dating to hopefully get married. We've mentioned the forever phrase a lot, and we both want it. I guess I'm writing you because at first, both said that we wanted to save sex for marriage. But now, we've both said that it all depends on the other person. I really do want to do this God's way, but we are both struggling. I also know that he does too, but he isn't very strong in this area. We have never kissed or really even been physical together. I am also struggling because I want to wear clothes that look hot or good looking for him. I want to stay attractive for him. But I also wish he would be that guy that says he wishes that I would be more modest and godly. Isn't that amazing? That she secretly wants him to she wants to look sexy and hot and attractive for him, but I want him to not want me to look that way. This is I'm so glad I'm not a teenager today. All my thoughts are really mixed up right now, but I need help on how to keep our relationship going. I don't know how to tell him what I really want. I want to be closer to God, but my worldly desires are in the way. We have also told each other that we love the other person, but other people's opinions are making me not believe that he and I can make it. I really do want what is best for him, so I hope that you will be able to write me back someday, and thank you for writing such an awesome book. So I thought that was ironic that I would just get this last week when I was scheduled to come here today. But they really, really are struggling. And initially, y'all are going to hear me talk a lot about teenagers because that's who I work with most. But if you have a younger, like toddler or younger, I have some stuff for you at the end. But you need to know the stuff about teenagers because your toddlers and your elementary kids are going to get here, and I don't know what it's going to be like then. So why do Christian teens have sex? The same reason why non-Christian teens have sex. So let me just read you some of the reasons. Number one, they don't think they have a choice. This young lady says, growing up in a Christian household, I was told to wait until marriage, so that was the plan. However, I found myself pushing it back to senior year and then maybe junior year. I just didn't want to be the only senior that was still a virgin. But now I know that not everyone is doing it. Also, now I'm a junior and I have a boyfriend who is not a virgin, so I felt obligated. I felt that in a few months I'd just have to. Now I know that it's my choice and my choice only, and honestly, I think I can definitely wait. But think about it. She didn't think she had a choice. She felt like I'm obligated because this person's not a virgin, and so they're going to expect me to have sex, and I don't really have a choice. And this is why it is so important for them to hear truth and to just be told that everybody's not doing it, because so many of them think that they don't have a choice. They also do it to escape their problems. This girl says, Saturday, 2 days before you came in, I lost my virginity. I was a good Christian girl who wasn't going to do that, and I had a purity ring to prove it. I truly think my boyfriend is the love of my life, but you made me regret my decision to have sex. I picked up my abstinence card before I left, and now because of you, my future husband will be the only one to take it away. Thank you for showing me my value, because I only had sex because of the issues in my life. Now I know that sex won't fix the problem. And so when I hear adults say teenagers are going to do it anyway because they're just out of control, they're hormone driven, that is just not true. And we can go and we can throw birth control pills at them, and we can throw all this. They're not doing it because their hormones are out of control. They are medicating pain or doing it because of peer pressure and all these other reasons. They also want to just relieve stress and family problems. I learned that sex isn't just a stress reliever. It doesn't have to be a way to help my self-esteem. That's why I have been using sex only to help me through stress and family problems. I try not to push sex onto my boyfriend because I feel bad after. If I don't get sex from him, I get mad and beat myself up in my head. I have been depressed for years. I'm only happy around my boyfriend and by sex. My best friend moved away, and I got even more depressed. I don't take pills, but thank you for teaching me that my life does matter. And so many of them do not think that their life matters. And one of the things, I was just at a high school, I had to do virtual Tuesday and Wednesday, and I was just doing two days of classes at a high school in Cobb. And one of the things I talked to them about is the fact that everybody has to have a yes in their life, like a dream, a goal, a vision. Something that they say, I want this thing so badly that I'm not going to let anybody or anything keep me from getting it. Because if they don't have a bigger yes, they'll say yes to anything. And they only consider something an at-risk behavior if they think they're risking something. They only protect a future if they think they have a future. And a lot of these kids don't see beyond just right now and fitting in with their friends. Because the next one is pressure from peers, the world, and the media. This is from a guy. He says, as a Christian, it has been hard to believe that what I stood for regarding sex and relationships was worth anything when I have to put up with the majority at school, the media, and the like that say that those beliefs are nice but not realistic. I still stood for and do stand for these ethics every day, but I was beginning to believe that they were nothing important and that I was wasting my time trying to live this life that the world says is unrealistic. All I have to say is that your talk with us gave me that spark to keep believing in making better decisions towards sex and relationships and even in my own ethics, going beyond what feels good to what is good. Honestly, you have influenced me and inspired me to keep going, and I want to thank you for that. Signed, a male student. All of the letters are written to me anonymously, and it's so interesting because they'll try to, even though I say don't write your names on them, don't put an email because they all want me to email them. They'll say, I was the person sitting in the second row from the back in your third block class, just so you know who I am. Right. I have a photographic memory. I remember everybody who was in the class. But they also don't love and value themselves. This girl says, I'm still a virgin, but was on the verge of making the mistake of losing my virginity for my boyfriend. I have low self-esteem, and since he wanted to do it, I thought I could prove I'm worth it by doing it. I'm so glad I didn't. I am more self-confident now and see my value, and I want to save myself for my future husband. Y'all, it is so much more than just out of control, hormone-driven teenagers. It is so much deeper than that. So here are some behaviors that may shock most parents. And, y'all have heard the narrative that we have to teach girls, if they say, I love you, if you do this, you'll love me, this is what you say. So we teach girls refusal skills, right? It's a new day. We got to teach boys refusal skills. Because I actually have an easier time talking high school boys out of having sex than I do high school girls. And that was not the reality 20 years ago when I first started. And it was confusing to me why that was the case until I did this activity. Well, I had been doing this activity, and it dawned on me. So I do this activity, on the board where I will ask the girls, I say, what do teenage girls expect from sex? And I say, okay, guys, you just listen. And they have love, commitment, validation. It'll make them feel pretty. It'll make them feel special, higher self-esteem. They have this long list of what girls expect from sex. And then I say, okay, and then I'll ask the guys. I'll say, okay, guys, what do guys expect from sex? They say, pleasure, we're done. They say, it's not that deep. Sometimes they'll say respect, and girls also say respect, but girls expect respect from their partner, and guys expect respect from their peers. And sometimes they'll say bragging rights. And so then I'll ask them, I'll say, so do y'all notice anything different about these two lists? And the guys will say, yeah, girls expect too much. And then the girls say, well, maybe guys expect too little. And then I say, I agree with the guys. And they're like, Miss Jackie, you turned on us. And I say, this is why. I say, because what y'all just listed, that's an unrealistic list. I said, it is unrealistic to expect long-term emotional needs to be met by a short-term physical act. And I say, one of the reasons why they say married people have the best sex, this is not a married woman's list. I said, a married woman is not having sex with her husband in order to get a commitment. She already has it. She's not having sex in order to get love. She already has it. She's not trying to get validated, to get respect. And I said, so inside of marriage, they can both focus on the same thing, which is pleasure. And so then I'll say, you know, we always dog guys out, and we say guys are dogs. They're using girls to get their physical needs met. And I tell the girls, I say, girls, you're just as guilty. They may be using you to get their physical needs met, but you're using them to get your emotional needs met. And I say the reason we always hear the guy is the villain and the girl the victim, I said because teenage guys typically get what they want from sex. Because they had lower expectations. I said, but the reality is you're both using each other. And I remember talking to, out in the community, I had 100 girls in the audience, and this young lady got so upset with me when I did that on the board. And she said, all of those things that are on that list, she said, those are natural needs. And how dare you say that those are unrealistic? And I said, I didn't say that you don't need these things. I said, it's crazy to expect them from sex. I said, everybody wants validation. Everybody wants love. People want to, I said, but it's crazy for you to expect to get that from sex. And she said, instead of telling us that our expectations are too high, why don't you get guys to raise their expectations? I said, why? So they can have unrealistic expectations too? I said, because if these are unrealistic expectations for you, they're also unrealistic expectations for guys. And then that's when it clicked. I'm like, this is why it is an easier sell for me to talk teenage boys out of having sex than girls, because a girl is thinking, if I'm having sex and you want me to stop, she thinks I'm giving up all of these things. I'm not going to feel validated. I'm not going to feel pretty. I'm not going to feel special. Things that she was never getting to start with. But in her mind, that's what she was expecting. And that's a tougher ask. But for a guy, I'm only asking him to give up one thing, pleasure. And then if I can appeal to the guy, because guys really do want to be challenged. Like, we don't think they do. But when I can talk to a guy about being a protector and not a predator, and a predator is somebody who preys upon the weaknesses of another person for their own selfish gain, when I can talk to a guy about what would you want, how would you want somebody to treat your little sister or your future daughter, and I can say the person that you're dating is somebody else's daughter, and we talk about that, guys rise to the challenge. And let me tell you the thing that has shocked me the most about this book. One of the things, because I read an excerpt from this book in the high school classroom, and one of the things in the beginning of this book is I talk about the three types of guys. The first guy is the player. The player is the guy who doesn't care about her, he just wants sex, he's using her. Second guy is a good guy. The good guy is the guy who may ask her for sex, but it's just because he doesn't know any better. He really does care about her, and he's the one that'll say, I'll let you decide, I'll wait until you're ready. He's not going to pressure her, but I'm okay if you say yes. And then I say the third kind of guy is the kind of guy that most girls don't think exists, and that's the best guy. I say the best guy is the guy who only wants what's best for himself and for whoever he's dating. So he's the guy that's going to put your best interest before his sex interest. He's the guy that's going to do what's best for you even when you're not willing to do what's best for yourself. And then I say, and guess what? The enemy of best is not bad. The enemy of best is good. And I say the thing that keeps most people from getting the best that they can have in life is that they settle. And I say it's the same thing with guys. The thing that will keep you from getting the best guy will not be the player, because you can recognize game. It's going to be the good guy, the guy that'll say, I'll let you decide. I'll wait until you're ready. I said, but the best guy would never have sex with you even if you were ready. So the unintended outcome from this book and reading that is I started getting letters from guys saying, Miss Jackie, I was a good guy because I didn't know the best guy was possible. And you've challenged me to now stop having sex with my girlfriend because I want to be the best guy. And if the best guy is possible, I've always wanted the best. Mothers started buying this book for their sons because there are over 100 excerpts from letters in here, and most of them from guys. And the whole premise of this book is that a relationship should not define you and that everybody's not doing it. And so the moms, especially in my 8th grade class, the mothers, the teachers who have sons, they started saying, I'm getting this book for my son because I want this to remove some pressure from him, because I want him to read the letters from these guys in here who are not expecting sex. But that's the shock that girls are very difficult to talk out of sex nowadays, and they are very, very aggressive. I have high school guys coming to me asking me if I will talk to their girlfriends because they want to stop having sex with their girlfriend, but they are afraid if I tell her that I want to stop having sex, she's going to think I don't find her attractive, she's going to think I'm cheating, or she's going to think I'm gay. I mean, this is what guys say. We're caught between a rock and a hard place. And so I was like, it's amazing that guys, I had a guy outside of a class one day crying in the hall. He showed me text messages that he sent his girlfriend doing my presentation, apologizing to her for having sex with her. And the girlfriend, who was in another county, had never had my class, the girlfriend is saying, baby, what's going on? It's no big deal. I wanted to have sex. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing? And he's like, there's this lady in my class, and she just made me realize how selfish it was for us to do that. We're not in a position to take care of a child, blah, 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 blah. And this kid, I had to take him in the teacher's office because he was in the hall, tears streaming down his face. Y'all, we've sold these kids so short. They are so hungry for truth. So hungry for truth, and they're not getting it. I remember, I have tons of stories, and I'm gonna stop on time. So I remember being at a presentation, and it was another presentation out in the community. It had about 100-something girls, and before I finished, so many of them were crying. And so the woman who was over the program came up at the end, and she said, y'all, where are all these tears coming from? She said, y'all are so emotional. And this young lady came up to the mic and said, because some of us just heard truth for the first time. Chills went down my spine hearing her say that. So here are some things that'll shock you. Number one, sexting. And the shocking thing, this next letter is not just the guys. This girl says, 8th grade girl, I asked my friend to send a nude of him. The 8th grade girl asked the guy to send the nude picture. To my surprise, he did it. She's like, I didn't know he was going to do it. Since he did it, I felt obligated to do the same, and I sent him a picture of myself. At the moment, I did it to feel excited, to have something exciting happen to me, but I later regretted it. I've always been one to be strong, but that one time I let my guard down, he gained something on me. A month has passed, and I'm still lucky that he didn't say this to anyone and that he deleted it. She doesn't know that he really deleted it or not. I've tons of stories about sexting 8th grade girls, and this will scare you. I was here in this county. I was talking about this in the classroom, and an 8th grade girl came up to me, tears in her eyes, and she said, this is so ironic that you would talk about this today. She said, because I want to show you a text message I just got during class. She said, last year when I was in the 7th grade, I sent a picture to, she said, my friend was on Snapchat. She had a friend who kept asking me for a picture. I didn't want to do it, but my girlfriend kept pressuring me, and she said, then the guy started asking me for sex. And she said, I blocked him, dropped him off of social media, off of Snapchat. And she said, then about 3 months later, my friend said, your picture showed up on somebody else's Snap. because he screenshotted it. And she said, I get this text in class today. The text says, I have a picture of you, and this can end one of two ways depending on what you do next. 8th grade girl, because of a picture she sent in the 7th grade. The phone number was a different area code. She had no idea who sent this picture. And she said, I don't know what to do. And I said, you have to tell your parents. And she said, I can't. They don't know I sent the picture. She said, my dad's a pastor. And I said, do you want to be blackmailed for the rest of your life? I said, they can trace this phone number to find out who this belongs to. And she came back the next day and said she did tell her dad, and they were going to look into it. But this is a 7th grader who now, a year later, is being blackmailed. Oral and anal sex. That's another thing that's going to shock you that has become a lot more common than you would think. And this girl's letter, it was a long letter, so I didn't put the first part in it, but she had already performed oral sex on her first boyfriend. And she says, I got a new boyfriend. He seemed a lot more genuine than the first one, and my family actually liked this one. So for our 3-month anniversary, I offered to give him head. I did this because at that point, I knew how to do it as opposed to intercourse. So I don't know how to have intercourse, but I can do oral sex because I've done that before. The logic, which I had no experience in. And I didn't want him to leave me like the last one. He refused at first, but after a week or so, he eventually gave in. It took her a week to convince the guy to let her perform oral sex on him. I had unknowingly pressured him into it, but he's not completely innocent either. For our 5-month anniversary, instead of sex, he requested anal. And I initially refused. I did some research about it, and most people said it hurt. But when I went over to his house a few days later, we were fooling around, and he was like, well, we're already mostly naked, so we should just go for it. And because it would have been awkward to say no, I let him do it. It was more awkward to say no than it was to do it. Every time I say I'm not going to be shocked, I read another letter, and I'm like, are you serious? And it did hurt, more than I care to admit. Before you came to speak with us, nobody told me that even small sexual acts could still tie you to someone emotionally. So when he cheated on me after 9 months of being together, I was broken. I figured we wouldn't last past high school, but I didn't think it would end the way it did. And I tell the students, I say, do you know who most of you are dating? Your future ex. I'm like, your relationship's going to end one of two ways. You marry them or you break up with them. And I'm like, as a teenager, the chances are much, much greater that they're going to be your ex and they're going to be your spouse. So why would you make a decision in what you already know is probably a temporary relationship that could come with a permanent consequence? And if I could take back everything I did in those 2 years with those 2 boys, I would without hesitation. There were so many times that I almost gave in. I just wanted to be loved physically because words weren't enough for me. My self-esteem was nearly non-existent because I didn't like the way I looked. I figured physical displays of affection were the only validation I would have. If that makes sense. If you had come to speak during my middle school, I probably wouldn't have made the mistakes that I made. Thank you so much. This all started in the 9th grade. Pornography. That's the next thing that would shock most parents. Dear Miss Jackie, I'm glad you talked about porn during your class, but the downside is that I'm a girl. I've been addicted, I guess, to porn since the 4th grade. Even though I hate to say that. I feel like many girls I know are going through the same thing, and I don't know how to stop because it's embarrassing to talk about. I would be a person you would never expect, too. I go to church twice a week. I have a good home life and good friends. The next girl says, I want to tell you that I went through what I went through because you gave me a vibe that I know I can trust you with anything. When I was 11 or 12, I was with a friend, and she showed me porn for the first time. I thought it was so cool and was infatuated with what they were doing and became addicted. I never did anything with it. I just watched it like it was a show on Netflix. I was addicted till the end of 6th grade when I realized enough was enough. When you came to speak, it lifted a weight off my shoulders. You are the first person I've told, and I think you've given me enough courage to tell my pastors. I've always wanted to tell someone, and I'm grateful that that first person is you. Thank you for being my diary. Y'all, I read these letters, and I just bawl. This next one was another bawling one. Dear Miss Jackie, my teacher talked a little about how she had to have you come talk to us sooner than she wanted to, But I think that you coming early did more good than harm. Now, my problem, I'm addicted to pornography. There, I said it, or typed it, or whatever. And another thing, it's gay pornography. I don't know your standing on homosexuals or whatever, but I myself don't have a problem with gays. I have 2 good friends that are bisexual, but I'm pretty sure that both of them would be disgusted at my secret addiction. No one knows about it, not my mom or my grandmother or my little sister or any of my friends. And I'm very good at not getting caught. I'll make sure I'm in incognito mode on Google Chrome and no one else will ever usually be in the room with me. If there is someone in the room, it's my grandmother, and if she is in the room, then I'll make sure she's asleep and that my laptop is on my lap facing away from her. I'll also position myself so that if anyone walks in, I'll have enough time to switch over to another window. This whole horrible thing started out small but disturbing. I would look up pictures or videos of a naked woman every now and then. I have no idea why. Then I accidentally found a porn website, and I began to regularly go to the website and watch videos. Some point along the way, I found a video of 2 guys. And well, at a recent doctor's appointment, my doctor asked my little sister and I if we were watching porn. I lied and said, of course not, since my mother was in the room. The doctor responded, good, because porn does things to your brain. I don't want to go to my mother because A, she would flip out and ban me for life from anything remotely electronic. B, she would flip out because she doesn't approve of gays. C, she would flip out because she doesn't want me watching anything above a PG rating. And D, she would probably disown me. My mother can be very scary, and I'm afraid she'll hate me forever if I ever confess to her about this. My father is out of the picture and has been for about 2 years now. My grandmother, who is a firm believer in her religion, would probably think that I'd replaced her granddaughter with some sort of demon spawn. And my dear little sister would never look at me the same ever again. And this is what you don't want to happen, to have a daughter or a son or a child not feel like they can come to you because you'll disown them. And that's what I read so often when I read from these students about them not going to their parents, because they don't trust that their parents' love is unconditional. And so they walk around like carrying things on their shoulders. Please help, Miss Jackie. I don't know what to do. I know that I'm addicted. I know why I'm addicted, but I don't know what to do about it. With love, 8th grader. This is an 8th grade girl, an amazing writer. She sent me this on Instagram. Rape and molestation. That's the next thing that I think you would be shocked by, the amount of times and how common it is. Dear Miss Jackie, what you taught was life-changing. You spoke to me on a level I didn't think teachers understood. Most teachers just say stay abstinent, but they never explain the emotional and physical consequences. They never explain what to do if you didn't stay abstinent, if you didn't listen, or if you didn't have a choice. I had no choice. I wish that I did every day of my life. I wish that someone like you had talked to me in the 9th grade when I was raped and got pregnant. It was by someone very close to me, and I didn't see it coming. I remember every word he said to me. I remember every detail of that day. I also remember going to the hospital because I was throwing up nonstop for weeks. They told me I was pregnant. To this day, I never told my dad that I was raped. I told him the condom broke. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt my dad. I didn't want him to think about his little girl being forced to do the unthinkable. I ended up getting an abortion. I can't look at a baby or hear the word pregnant. What I thought would be minutes of pain turned out to be years of pain. I don't know when I'll recover, but you helped me understand that I wasn't alone and I can get through this. I'm finally going to tell my dad. Y'all, I know that God has placed me in these schools for these kids. And it's overwhelming at times, and I'm just like humbled that I get to partner with God to bring truth and healing to a generation. And I pray on my way to a school every morning, and I say, God, let your spirit rest upon me so that the students can sense your presence even if I can't say your name. I take authority over every demonic spirit that would try to hinder the kids from hearing and receiving a message of truth. And I dispatch ministering angels to minister to the students should any wounds be opened as a result of anything that I say. Because oftentimes I'll have tears streaming in the class when I'm talking either about daddy issues or rape or molestation. And there's so many girls that are suffering in silence. I mean, this girl has gone through all of this and didn't even tell her dad. She didn't want to tell her dad that she was raped, so now she has to deal with this trauma without any kind of counseling on her own. How do parents miss it? Number one, they stay silent, not talking. This girl says, I've never had to talk with my mom, mainly because she's extremely religious. That should not be a reason why girls don't get the talk because their parents are extremely religious. This girl says, I really liked your talk. It was very educational for someone like me, a child that grew up in a Baptist family where the sex talk was non-existent. What is going on? I don't know if you know about family life, Dennis Rainey, but he said, between interaction with the culture, media, and their peers, this year, your teenagers will be exposed to 100,000 messages about sex. How many of these will come from you? And it's not just your teenagers. It's younger kids. They're exposed. The culture is so toxic. Parents also don't explain the why. This girl says, I've been raised Baptist my entire life, so absence has been continually preached to me. No explanation was ever given to me except that I would be a disappointment and a sinner if I did have sex. It is hard in today's time as a teenager to live this way with no exceptions and sex happening all around us. The next one says, thank you so much for coming and talking to our school. It's crazy because my mom was just talking to me about sex. She told me not to have sex, but she never told me why. It left me confused. You can't just say don't do it. You can't just say because it's in the Bible. You can't just say because it's a sin. Kids are not accepting that today. I'm not sure if they ever accepted that, but that's not enough today. They also think that if you say it's in the Bible, it's enough. I'm a Christian, and all my life I've heard sex before marriage is bad, but I never agreed. I thought it was stupid not to have sex just because it's in a book and the preacher says it's wrong. I now know why sex before marriage is wrong and dangerous. I no longer feel pressure to do anything and know now how to prevent it from happening. Thanks, and I hope you keep talking to students. This one says, I expected you to come and preach to my class about absence and tell us things that none of us are interested in. We can't relate to the Puritans some adults expect us to be. We can't be expected to save ourselves for Jesus, especially when most of us don't view him as anything more than an imaginary friend in the sky. Like, this stuff breaks my heart. But you were real and gave us real statistics and stories and things to consider that made sense. So here's what parents can do, the part you've been waiting for. First of all, talk about the benefits and not just the consequences. Like, that's what we always go, if you do this, you'll get that. And we've tried to change teenage behavior for years using two words, do and get. If you do this, you'll get that. I think two better words to use to try to change behavior are see and feel. How do you see yourself? How do you feel about yourself? Because until they see and feel about themselves the way they should, they will make all kind of bad decisions. They won't even realize what it's costing them. This girl says, before you came, I thought I knew a lot about sex and its risk. However, you let me know about the risk that this is a guy, putting my girl at by not having premarital sex with her. You really let me know about the strength it takes to abstain from sex and how much more valuable it makes you. Because of that talk you gave, as well as my religious convictions, I have decided to abstain from sex. This decision will be the start of gaining real strength in my life. So that's more effective of talking about how strong you are. Like, it's a message of freedom, not a message of what you can't do. We have to present this as a message of freedom and what you will be able to do as a result of not having sex. I love this quote by Andy Stanley that says, when you give up something now for something better later, that's not a sacrifice, that's an investment. It's one of my favorite quotes by him. And so I ask the kids, invest in your future marriage. Invest in your future family. What do you want for your future family? It's because then it changes their motivation. It's not about what they can't do. It's about, wow, if I don't do this, I will be able to do something so much better, so much greater later. When you give up something now for something better later, that's not a sacrifice, that's an investment. Your stories and words are so inspiring. Truth be told, before you came, I was making plans to go out and have sex because I was tired of being a virgin. But you showed me that it's not about what I want right now, but what I want for my wife and kids later on. It doesn't matter what people think of me because I'm a virgin, but what kind of higher standard I hold myself to. That is so much more effective when you talk about the benefits that they'll gain from abstaining versus the consequence they're going to get from having sex. Because they really do care about their future children. This one says, I just want to say thank you. I know that in my future relationships, I would be asked to have sex. Getting asked wasn't the problem. Holding on to my virginity was. I thought to myself, what would truly stop me from engaging in sex if I had nothing to essentially prevent me? When you told us that having sex was selfish and could ruin my potential child's life, you gave me that something. And we always talk about how selfish kids are, and I'm not saying that they aren't to some degree, but what I've found is a very effective way is to talk to them about selfishness versus selflessness. And I tell them, I just said it yesterday, I said, I think one of the most selfish decisions that you can make is to have sex. Because selfish is when you make a decision that benefits you even though it hurts somebody else. And I said, I hear teenagers all the time say, it's my body, I'm not hurting anybody, I can do what I want to do. And I said, if the two people having sex were the only two people who had to deal with the consequence of having sex, I might buy that. I said, but the reality is, in many cases, somebody else is attached to that decision. It could be your family. You get an STD, now they got to pay for you to get treated. It could be a future kid. That is one of the most common things I read in kids' letters as to why they make a decision to not have sex, is the whole selfish versus selflessness. Help them know their value and their worth. This girl says, when I keep myself out of situations that could possibly lead to sex, like being alone with a boy in his house, it becomes extremely easy to abstain from sex. I only date guys who have the same abstinence morals as me, and it saves me so much trouble. You really opened my eyes to notice the emotional reasons that girls use to get sex. I then reflected on my own personal life and realized that I have an amazing family and friend support system. When I have that, it keeps me from wanting to feel acceptance from guys through sex. You helped me realize why it is so easy for me to say no to sex. This comes from a family support system. You matter. And parents think that peers are the most important influence when it comes to kids' sex. Families, parents, you have a lot of influence on whether your kids are going to have sex or not. And here's the thing. To know their value, I created this, the letter every mom should write her teen daughter, but it can go for a teen son as well. So I actually have a template on my website. If you go to JackieBruton.com/letter, there's a template there that gives you options. I mean, don't fill out the template, like handwrite the letter, but it gives you options. If you don't know what to say, if you say I'm not a good writer, and you talk about, here are my dreams and my goals for you. Here is what I wish for you. Here's what I wish somebody had told me when I was a teenager. All of those things are included in the letter because oftentimes the way a child feels about themselves is based on how they think their parents feel about them. And so if they think that their parent doesn't like them because, sometimes parents can say these things about how they get on your nerves. But if they feel like that they're not lovable because they think that if you get upset, sometimes you don't love them, then they start to not like themselves because they think, well, maybe I'm not lovable. Help them develop a real relationship with God. This girl, and I love this letter, she says, from the time we were born, we were taught to chase the momentary satisfaction. We were taught to find the largest high to fulfill our greatest lows, and for me that was sex. I gained my ultimate satisfaction from the opinion of man. It wasn't until I discovered that a righteous, pure, just man died for me that I found my true value and worth, Jesus Christ. Now I no longer have to chase the momentary satisfaction because I found a permanent one. Thank you for planting a seed in all of our lives, Miss Jackie. What you do matters. It takes someone like you to inspire others and lead them to the answer to their quest for worthiness, Christ. And I always struggle sometimes when I go into the schools because I can't mention God. And so I feel like, I think it's possible to convince them not to have sex without it, but, they really need God. And so I'll leave and I'll get frustrated. And I went back to a school one day, and on the second day, I said, did anybody hear anything yesterday that may have made you think differently about sex than you thought before? And so I had a guy in the class who raised his hand, and he said, I'm going to stop having sex. And I said, really? I said, what did I say that made you want to stop having sex? And he said, I decided that I can't expect God to give me a new car if I keep putting all these miles on mine. And so then a girl in the class raised her hand, and she said, yeah, I'm going to stop having sex, and I'm getting baptized on Sunday. And I'm like, whoa, what did I say that made you get baptized on Sunday? And she said, There have been a lot of things that have been leading me in that direction. She said, but hearing you talk yesterday, she said, just made me realize I need to get my life together. And so you never know when you're planting a seed and somebody else comes along and water the seed. So that seed had been planted, and all I did was put a little more water on it. And so God will always send me encouragement when I get frustrated because I can't mention God and because I know that's what these kids need. God will always send me some kind of encouragement, and I'll get a letter from somebody who'll say, I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but it sure sounded like it. So these are just a summary. Talk about the benefits, teach them to invest in their future family, help them know their value and worth, write them a letter. And when you write the letter, I think it's great to make it a ritual, like every year on their birthday, part of their Christmas present, when they graduate from high school. I mean, just different occasions that it, you know. And I had a mom tell me that she and her daughter was 11 or 12, and they had a really contentious relationship. And she wrote this letter, and she found that her daughter, 2 years later, had been carrying the letter around in her backpack. And she realized that her daughter told her she was reading it regularly whenever she had a bad day. So don't underestimate the power of that. So this letter was one that is kind of like the one that the girl wrote me, that just gives you a glimpse of how it gets to the point of teenagers wanting to have sex even though they're Christians. This girl says, I wanted to start off by saying thank you. You coming to speak was exactly what I needed. I've grown up in a very Christian and religious home, and it's been wonderful. But going into high school, I set expectations, ones that normal people have. I quickly realized my parents would simply not allow me to have that life. They'd preach on abstinence and sex and how everything is better when waiting, but I felt like I would be missing out. I told myself I'd wait till marriage, but secretly I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I see people in happy relationships at each other's houses having casual sex, and I felt like being a Christian held me back from having fun. Recently, a boy in my class has been important to me. We would call each other but could hardly talk in person. There were a few times where we ended up together, and each time it was more and more physical. It was normal stuff like cuddling, hugging, and hands around the waist. It was the weekend after you came to speak, and all I could think about was how you said, you may lose a boyfriend you really like, but you'll never lose a boyfriend who really likes you over not doing things for them. I felt loved and special, but all of a sudden, all the touching made me feel so alone and empty. I realized no matter how good it felt, the instability and unknowing of what would happen to me and the boy made it feel worthless. I promised myself the next morning that I would never have casual sex because although it wasn't sex, I realized how empty the physical is without the emotional. I've always cared about boys' opinion of me. I've always felt special and craved for their validation, which is why when you said that the best guy won't pressure you and can't feel the emotional needs you're looking for, I was like, wow, I needed that. I needed to be reminded of how unwise it is to have sex too soon. The culture tells me I'm crazy for waiting, that my sex life will be dry. The church tells me I need self-control and must wait. I needed another voice of reason, one that I knew was right but didn't feel forceful. Your stories of teen pregnancies and STDs reminded me that this whole time I was so fixed on whether I could hide the fact that I'm having sex that I didn't even consider the huge consequences. I realized that the cons outweigh the pros, and when you chose to use the word wise, that really stood out to me. Listening to you was a wake-up call. You were what I needed. I'm not risking a teen pregnancy or STD, feeling empty for what you said was a temporary good feeling. I'm waiting to marriage, and I have no regrets. God bless you. This was a 9th grade girl. I'm so impressed with how they express themselves. So how and what do you teach younger children? First of all, keep puppy love in perspective. And think about how we, at young ages, start to condition kids prematurely about relationships. We tell little boys, oh, you're so handsome, you're going to be a heartbreaker. You're going to break all these girls' hearts. For little girls, we make everything about about their validation and being, somebody in a relationship, and even elementary school kids. And when I have girls in the 8th grade who tell me they've been in a relationship for 3 years, I'm like, you've been in a relationship for 3 years and you're in the 8th grade? It's like, and I had a mom say, oh, it's just innocent. They don't really mean anything. All they do is say, well, let me tell you, I had an 8th grade girl tell me that she had a boyfriend. She was 11 and the boyfriend was 12. The boyfriend was pressuring her to have sex. And check this out. It was right before Christmas, and he told her, if you have sex with me, you don't have to buy me anything for Christmas. That's the lines they're using now, you know. You can save your money, just give me sex. So she said that she refused. He pushed her up against the wall and choked her. She's 11, he's 12, but it gets worse. She said he choked her so much that she had bruises on her neck. She went home and told her mom that it was a hickey because she said, I would rather get in trouble for having a hickey than get him in trouble for choking me. 11 years old. So when people say it's just innocent, I've had 2 girls tell me they got pregnant in the summer between the 5th and 6th grade year. One young lady, she said, I said, how old was the boy? She said, I was going to the 6th grade, he was going to the 7th grade. And I said, you were 11 years old. I said, what would make you want to have sex at the age of 11? She said, I just wanted to see what it felt like. That's the media. That is exposure to media. Build a relationship with them and fill their love tank. Even at young ages, fill their love tank. Let them know what love looks like. And it's funny, I had a guy, I think his daughter was 10 or 11, that he told me that the way he taught his daughter about love, he said, whenever you go, bank tellers, the way you get them to recognize counterfeit money is you make them study the real. He said, you don't show them counterfeit money. They have to look at the real, so if anything doesn't look like the real, they recognize it right away. He said, that's what I'm doing with my daughter. He said, I am showing her what real love is so that when some joker comes along and tells her, if you love me, you'll do this, or this is what she already knows. No, I know. My dad's already shown me what love is, and love is unconditional. Model and teach them about healthy relationships. I can't tell you how many girls have told me that they accepted stuff because they saw their mom accept it. Abusive behavior. This 8th grade girl said, before this message, I hated myself for my past relationship. I felt used. You taught me I'm better than that. And he really did me a favor when he left. My dad abused my mom. I think that's why I thought how my ex-boyfriend treated me was okay, because I saw my dad always scream and use my mom, and still does even though they are divorced. You taught me the difference between that and healthy. Thank you. And I remember the girl who wrote me this letter, because it's so funny. When she was walking out the door, because they don't write their names on their, this was on an evaluation here in Paulding County. And when she was walking out the door, she said, you want to know how you'll know whether my letter, I write my F's backwards. It's like they want to be known. It's like, I want you to know which one. And when I read this, she was absolutely gorgeous and seemed like she had the best self-esteem. And so I read this, I was like, oh my goodness, I would have never pictured that about you. Set boundaries so they will learn to set their own boundaries. Because one of the biggest reasons that we have so many issues is lack of self-control. And here's the deal, I hate it when I see, and this is really young, you have to tell your kids no so one day they can say no to themselves. And I'll tell you, even with family members, when I see them with their toddlers and their kids, and the kids are running the show, and I say, okay, don't bring her to me when she's a teenager to teach me how to help her learn how to set boundaries, because you're not setting any boundaries for her now. This young lady says the one thing that, this was a junior, this young lady, the one thing that really stuck out is the need to set boundaries in a dating relationship. This is a challenge for me, because I've not had any boundary lines in my life. Everything you said has encouraged me to set boundaries for the first time in my life. No 16-year-old junior in high school should be saying, I've never had any boundaries in my life. I love this book. It's called Know Why Kids of All Ages Need to Hear It and Ways Parents Can Say It. And it goes through when they're toddlers, when they're in elementary school, when they're in middle school, and when they're in high school. And the thing that he says is the reward for saying no comes when our kids are the adults who know when to say no and when to say yes to themselves, who can delay gratification in order to accomplish greater achievements. No is not the goal, it's the road to yes. We've got to stop giving our kids everything they want and feeling like we can't disappoint them. We're setting them up for failure. We're not preparing them for the real world. We're not. Teach them about good touch, bad touch. I can't tell you the number of letters that I've gotten from girls and guys who have been molested as kids by family friends, family members, and some of them have never told anybody. This girl says, I want to say thank you for speaking to my 8th grade class yesterday. When I was little, about 4 or 5, I was molested, and I felt like it was my fault. I felt as though I could have screamed louder, or I could have made him go away, or I could have done something more. I remember looking at the ceiling as a 5-year-old with my neighbor's hand over my mouth and wishing and praying it would stop, but he would not, that he would stop. He was a sick and twisted man, and after about 3 times of him touching me, I told my parents and they called the police. I felt like damaged goods until you spoke to us. You changed my life. I'm so thankful for you, and I'm so glad I wasn't the only one. This happened when she was 5, and she has felt like damaged goods her entire life. And then when they feel like damaged goods, they say they don't feel like they have anything to protect, and so they have sex because I don't have any value anyway. I've never told my story to anyone. I was ashamed and embarrassed. Thank you for letting me know that it's okay to speak about this, and it wasn't my fault, and that I'm not damaged goods. I let him take control of my life for so long, so thank you. I really hope your words reach people and get to people so they'll understand rape or molestation is never their fault. No matter how old you are, it's never okay. I wish girls could hear more stories like mine. I wish they knew it's never their fault. And I just looked down and I forgot all about it. I need to stop and ask for questions. I forgot all about it. I think that was the last one. Don't make a great thing seem bad. Don't tell them it's the devil. Monitor exposure to technology. And first of all, recognize the real enemy and fight for your children. Because we wrestle not against flesh or blood. And if you saw that video at the beginning, you see that it's a satanic attack. And also, train them up in the way they should go. And when they're old, they won't depart from it. So does anybody have any questions? Did I scare you all?
I'm going to let you go first, but I have one too.
So it seems like, I have young 6-year-old boys, and it seems like you need to get ahead of this, but I don't want to do it too soon. So when do you have that talk?
So here's the deal. I hear that a lot. She said, when do you have the talk? Because her sons are 6, and she doesn't want to do it too soon. The problem is we always make it into a big talk and make it about sex. So you can start with age-appropriate things, just talking about healthy relationships. And so even as toddlers, if you see things, modeling it, number one, is the best thing. That you model in your relationship what's healthy. And you call out when you see things that are not healthy. And there'll be plenty of opportunities to call stuff out that you see is not healthy. So you can always do it in an age-appropriate way. And you don't have to talk about sex at 6, but you can talk about this is what a healthy relationship is at 6. And unfortunately, with everything that's happening in the media today, you're probably going to be forced to talk about it sooner than you want to talk about it, just based on either them asking you questions or them being exposed to stuff. I have a friend who's a youth pastor, and he did a presentation at his church for parents of dangers of pornography. A dad came back to him, this was 10 years ago. A dad came back to him 2 weeks later and said, I didn't think I had anything to worry about, but you got me scared. And I went home and checked my son's iPod. So, kids don't even do iPods anymore. That's how long ago it was. He said he found 2 weeks worth of graphic history that his son had been visiting graphic porn sites. His son was 6 years old. 6. And he asked his son, he said, why were you on these sites? And his son said, I was Googling something for my Razor scooter and it just popped up. He said, and I didn't know what it was, but then I got curious. And then I just clicked on the other links. So it's not a matter of if your kids are going to see porn by accident. It's a matter of when they see it by accident. And so what you need to tell them even about porn is I would have that conversation. Say there may be times when stuff might pop up on your computer that you didn't search for, and just understand, and I think every parent needs to have this conversation with their kids about this danger of pornography, and it's not your fault, but you need to come to me and let me know so that we can, take care of that and figure it out, and, also make sure you have monitors, or what do you call them? Parental controls. And say, I won't blame you, like you're not going to get in trouble. Because what happens is the kids will happen upon it, and then they think I'm going to get in trouble if I tell that it popped up. And so they don't tell, and then what the devil does is keeps luring them back to it. And so this young man said he just kept clicking on the links. So then the same youth pastor said some of his teenagers were coming and talking about their addictions to porn. And he said, I knew their parents, and I knew that their parents had filters. And he said, I don't understand. How are you getting around the filters? And the guy said, my parents use the same password for everything. They said, all we do is we go and uninstall the filter, go watch our porn, and then put the filter back on. They're smart. So that is a conversation that I think you can have at a really, really young age just about the whole pornography, because it's going to happen.
Preach it.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question. I have 3 teenage boys. Yay me. I'm curious, is there a way, do you have video, or can we watch any of your classes? Can we see what you're saying? Is it possible that we can have like an insight into that world?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have free resources on my website. I have an ebook called 7 Things Every Parent of a Teen Needs to Know Before Having the Talk. And you can get that on my website. You have that. And then in the lobby today, I have a DVD for parents, and it's 5 different chapters that talk about why teens, what are the consequences, why they're having sex, what you can do. 1 for girls and 1 for guys. And then I have the book out there, and then I have some magnets that are just 10 things every teen girl needs to be fab, and 10 ways to raise a daughter who's fab.
And those are just kind of cliff notes of what you say in your classes?
Yeah. This is
Okay.
actually a pre-recorded assembly that I did.
Okay.
So it's a live assembly that I did, and it's a live parent presentation that I did.
Because I think it'd be really interesting for all of us to kind of hear the things, we're seeing the outcome of what you say or what they're telling you, but to actually hear what you're saying to them, to make them write those letters is, I think, insight that I would like.
Yeah, you won't get it all because this presentation is like an hour. I'm with the kids for 3 hours, and so you won't get it all here. And in the classroom, it is more intimate, and so it's a discussion, and so I get to hear their questions, and I get to speak to where they are versus me just presenting.
Right.
Is a little different. But I also have online Dating Boundaries 101 for teen girls e-course. I have a master class, 7 Secrets Revealed, which is basically 8 sessions that I went through each chapter, and I did an hour-long session. I have about 15 guests that I interviewed, a teen mom, a teen dad, 3 couples that waited till they got married to have sex, and they explained why they made the choice and how they did it. A college students. I have a pastor's son who said he was a puppet master when he was a teenager because he just tried to get the girls' hearts, and so he was very, very revealing. And then I have one for guys, Boys to Men Masterclass. And then my Jackie B Academy, my website, is actually being relaunched, so it should be up within the next week. If you go there, it's going to say new website coming soon. But I just did this e-course for moms called 10 Ways to Raise a Daughter Who's Fab. Focused, Authentic, and Brave is what FAB stands for. And that's amazing. It's 10 videos that gives you 3 actionable steps that you can do for each one of those 10 ways.
Excellent.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, one more here.
Hi, I am very technologically disinclined, and one of my biggest fears is that I don't have the skills to put these parental controls into place. And do you have on your website, or do you have any suggestions for resources? Like, I need like a geek squad to come to my home and just lock everything down. I'll be honest, I don't have time or energy or the wherewithal to fully educate myself to do what's necessary, because like you said, they're always one step ahead of you.
So on parental controls, I hear a lot of parents talking about they like Bark. Does anybody use that one? Covenant Eyes is another one that they have a parental controls that a lot of parents seem to like. The 2 that I hear the most about are Bark and Covenant Eyes. Does anybody else in here have another one that you like if you use parental controls on your sites?
We use something called we use something called Guardian, and my husband gets messages when the kids look at a picture that Guardian deems possibly questionable. I get messages from him all day saying, go ask Trevor what he just took a picture of. They can't get into hardly anything. They're like, why do I have this phone? So you answer it when we call you. But And it works really well, and he just used it recently for our computers as
And
well.
that's MM Guardian?
MM Guardian. There's a fee monthly, I don't know what it is.
Bark, B-A-R-K. Yeah, I hear a lot about Bark, B-A-R-K.
So I have a comment on that. So I'm actually a pediatric doctor, and don't just trust the filters, because there's a lot of things that will pop up beyond the filters. I hear it all the time, the 6-year-olds, the 7-year-olds, and they were searching for, you know, I don't know, cocoa melon or something, and they spell it wrong, you know? So just be aware that it goes way beyond the filters. But
Yeah.
I just wondered, so I have 2 young boys, 5 and 2, and then a baby girl. And you mentioned things like, people say things like, oh, you're gonna be a heartbreaker, or, you know, the little girls, oh, you're so beautiful, that we're unintentionally putting that into our child. Do you have an action step in the opposite direction, like where we can feed the positive side as opposed to?
Yeah, I would say, especially for girls, because the culture has done so much for girls to make them believe that they are how they look, that I would say character traits, like that was, you did such a good job with that, and you're such a kind person, and help them excel. Like, typically kids are less likely to have sex if they stay busy. Like, if you keep them involved in stuff, extracurricular activities, find out what they really, really love, and then help them spend time doing that. But just, please don't spend a lot of time complimenting your daughters. I'm not saying you never tell them they're beautiful, but don't let that be the sole thing. And for guys, I mean, talk about character traits, and you're gonna, you know, be such a compassionate, you know, adult man when you grow up and all that kind of stuff. Just stay away from a lot of the physical compliments.
Just in regards to that, I am a total pleaser. I grew up being a pleaser, and it kind of ties into what you're saying. I really try hard to say to my children, doesn't that feel good? Aren't you proud of yourself? And trying to get them to recognize those feelings in themselves instead of looking for external validation. So it's not necessarily motivated by the same factors, but getting kids to have that internal validation and seek their identity in Christ. I think if you could work on those 2 things, and I'm guilty of it too, you know, we all want to say, oh, you look so pretty, oh, you're so handsome, but at the same time, you want them to recognize what feels good. And mindfulness, I think in general, I know it's so like overly said, but mindfulness is a really great skill to get them in touch with their emotions so that they are aware of how they're feeling when they're feeling that way. Good, bad, and different.
Yeah, I mean, and social media has done a job on not just teenagers, but adults as well. I mean, you think about so much is wanting to get the accolades from other people, and now kids are willing to do it at any cost. Yes?
I hope I don't blow your ears out, because I'm loud to begin with. I'm actually a bus driver for middle school.
I bet you got some stories.
Oh, yes, yes. I have a lot, and this is just breaking my heart hearing this, because I do have an 8th grader. And so hearing Suzanne last week, I was like, okay, I got to ask these questions, you know. And my son does not talk. I mean, even if you ask a question, yeah. And so I pried a little bit. I think I made him uncomfortable, but I was happy to hear the answers. But I just wanted to mention, I was in a private Christian school for 5 years, and I saw worse things than I did in public school, just so y'all know. It's public, I mean, it's wherever you are, you know. I'm where I am now because of this. And so I'm praying, how can I reach out to these 7th and 8th graders, what they're going through. And so I'm very personable. So actually, I have some mamas in here that their kids are on my bus. You will see me walk to the back of the bus we're told we're not allowed to go in the back of the bus because kids will say, oh, Miss Marcy slapped me in the head or something. We have videos everywhere, so I let them know I'm watching everything they do. And I'm against phones. I mean, I have it, but I'm not technology good. I'm not on any social media. If y'all need to send me something, you got to send it to my phone because I'm on nothing. Don't know how to do Instagram, anything. But I let the kids know, be careful what your eyes are looking at. And if I think it's inappropriate, it comes up in my basket. I have a cell phone. I said, I will hold it till you get off my bus. So.
I'm glad you're there.
Yes, so.
Yeah, I've heard lots of stories about what happens on the buses. And Stars and Stripes used to be the place that they would tell me, the skating ring. I mean, I heard tons of stories from Paulding County kids. But I had to say, what's Stars and Stripes? They're like, you don't know? Yeah.
I have boys. So for the moms out there, how do we talk to our teenage boys, our older boys? You know, I tend to be, Dad, you talk to them. But sometimes, especially my 12-year-old will come to me before he'll go to Dad because he feels like Mom's a little bit more compassionate. So what are some things that you have for us mommies that only have boys and some don't have dad figures in their lives? How do we talk to them about these subjects?
I think it's a great opportunity for moms to be able to share with their sons the girl's perspective about what breaks her heart and what hurts her, and when you treat a girl like this is what can long-term happen to her. And so treats them to be like, chivalry's not dead, and all of this stuff, that how girls really love that. Because guys tell me a lot that they feel like they don't have a choice about having sex because they think they're going to either be thought that they were gay, cheating, or don't find the girl attractive. But talk to them about being honorable, and I think you can still do it as a mom because you're giving them the female perspective. And interestingly, I co-taught for years with a guy in high school classes that were co-ed, and we would get letters where the guys would say they related more to me than they did the male speaker. They said sometimes it helps to hear the female side of it. And so it was easier for them to take it from a female than a male.
I found that to be true with my teenage boys, the older ones especially. The oldest one, who's now 18, I actually got to a point where I was actually sharing my experiences as a girl in high school and what boys pressured me and those kind of situations. And he listened more about that, about how, because he could see the hurt in my eyes and how that affected him, and had told me later that that was more effective than a lot of the other stuff that I had said. So by the time you get to a certain age, when they get to a certain age, you can be more vulnerable and share more of that. My 14-year-old's not going to hear that story, but my 18-year-old will. So I found that was really helpful.
And when you said that, it's interesting because I had a mom sent me an email and said she lost her virginity when she was 16, and she ended up having an abortion. And then when she went to college, she ended up having a second abortion. And she said her daughter was 15 and wanted to start having sex. And she said, do I share with my daughter about my experiences? And so my response to her was, I'm not sure at 15 that she's able to handle like the details, but you can share like about some of your choices. Well, then I went into the classroom and I started asking the kids. I said, okay, y'all, I just had a mom ask me this. What would you want your mom to tell you? And 90-something% of the kids, girls and guys, said, if she told me that, I would feel like I could relate to her even more because I could tell that she wasn't perfect. Absolutely. And that it would, I was really shocked to hear them say, and I said, would you not think she was a hypocrite? Because that's what the mom said. I don't want my daughter to think I'm a hypocrite because I'm telling her not to have sex. If I tell her that I had sex and had an abortion at 16, that she'll think I'm a hypocrite. And most of the students in the class said they would not think that the parent was a hypocrite.
I was 35 years old when my mom shared something with me, and I honestly thought to myself, if you had said this to me when I was a teenager, so many things would have been different. And I could have handled it, and I would have handled it. And I was 30 years old going, and I went to my little sisters, and I was like, I've got to share something with you because, and I asked permission, but I needed them to know that they're at the age they were at, because I was the oldest, that I knew how that would have affected me as a high schooler. And I wish that my mom, I'm like, why did you wait till this age? And she didn't even tell me on purpose. It was actually she didn't even realize she was kind of
Yeah.
accidentally saying, kind of came out. And I thought, Mom, why in the world did you not share that with us? So it makes a difference.
Yeah, they say it makes you human. It makes you seem human.
Because she wasn't for all those years.
I
She
mean,
was
I'm not saying
opposite.
all the details, but kids do want to know that you really can relate to what they're going through, and they hate it when you say, like, when I was your age, it wasn't like that, blah, 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 and they're like, you're not perfect. They don't, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm the last question. When you were talking and you said they separate the boys and girls out, which is very much what we did back in my olden days, as my daughter says, do you think we should be separating the boys and girls out, or it should be a conversation together? Because I'm real big on making taboo things not taboo anymore. So it seemed like they did that back then because they were uncomfortable already talking about it. But now we need to get real, and they like the truth, that they should be having the conversations together.
So I'll tell you, and we only separate in middle school, and we've had to do it with them together because either the male speaker didn't show up or something happened. And I'll tell you what happens. One of the two things happens. When they are 8th grade, the girls either shut down and won't say anything because the boys are there, and the boys are saying stuff for shock value about threesomes, and they've never had a first kiss. It's like, so it just, the maturity level in the 8th grade is what prevents, and that's the school's call, not my call. The school's call to separate by gender. But I get it. Just based on the times when we were forced to put them together, it didn't turn out too well. Yes. So you're going to break out to your small groups now, and then I will be back at the table with all the resources, and if you have any other questions. God, we just thank you for this, this time that we've had this morning. I thank you for Joy and putting on her heart to establish this group of moms who are fighting for their children. I thank you for the theme of this session, because we need to be awakened to the arrows that the devil is trying to use to destroy our kids and destroy a whole generation and another generation after that. So we just thank you for all the moms who are here. We ask that you will give them the wisdom that they need in order to guide their kids, pray for their kids, and have the expectations for their kids that they are positive expectations, and not expecting them that they're going to fail, but expect that they have the ability to make good choices and live a godly life for you. We thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and we just ask you to bless every session after this. And I have planted a seed, and I thank you for the speakers that will come afterwards and water a seed. And we thank you and just speak a blessing over every child that is represented here today, that you will give them a heart after you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I hope I didn't scare you too much.